one more minute to allow everyone the opportunity to get into the webinar, but we'll be starting in just about 30 or 40 seconds, so hang tight. We are about to get started. Welcome to our Johns Hopkins virtual information session. My name is Jenny Hunkin. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions here at Johns Hopkins. I'll be joined by one of our current students, Axel, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Axel. I'm currently, well, I guess a senior now that finals are over. First time I've actually said that out loud. And I am double majoring in English and psychology, and I'm from Richmond, Virginia.
Awesome. So you'll be hearing from both myself and Axel today about the Hopkins experience. We're going to talk about academics, student life, as well as the admissions and financial aid process. There will be time at the end where we will be going through your questions. There is a Q&A feature. So if you can see that on sort of your toolbar, it says Q&A. You can drop questions in there. I believe there should also be a feature for you to sort of upvote questions that are of interest to you, so that if you see someone else has asked a question that you are curious about, you can just upvote it, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can today. One of my colleagues is also here in the background, Maria, so she'll be helping out with answering some of those questions by text for the ones that we're not able to answer live. But then also, if you have any technical issues during the webinar, if you can use the chat, and Maria can try to help you out there. We are going to have all of the questions go into the Q&A feature. So don't ask any questions in the chat. We won't see those there. So please use the Q&A feature there. But before we get too far into it, I would love to learn a little bit more about who is in our audience today. So I just have launched a poll. You can see there's a couple questions asking, where are you tuning in from? What year are you graduating? As well as, what are you interested in studying in college? This last one is multiple choice. So you can choose as many as fits for you. As Axel already mentioned, he's double majors, very common experience at Hopkins. We'll talk about that in a moment. But lots of opportunities. And if you're feeling undecided, also very common at Hopkins. You have some time until you declare your major. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about academics. But if you all wouldn't mind sharing your answers, I'll give you all about 5 or 10 more seconds. If it's not popping up on your screen, don't worry. That's usually pretty common on a phone or tablet. This is the only poll we're going to be doing, and it's really just for fun. So I'm going to end our poll now. So if you're waiting to hit submit, do that now. All right, I'll share the results with everyone. So we have people tuning in from all over, a few from outside the US, couple from the West and Northeast, all over. So great to see people coming from all over to learn about Hopkins. Definitely our community is from all over the US, all over the world to come study and live and learn at Hopkins. What year are you graduating? The majority of students seem to be in that junior year. Very common for everyone to be learning about college at that time, but great to see some younger students as well, really being up on your college process and learning about things early. And then we have a really wide variety of distributions of what people want to study, with natural sciences being the most popular, but very evenly distributed across those different areas. So I will stop sharing those results. It's really exciting to see just sort of the diversity of interests and locations you all are coming from. But now we want to jump into a little bit more about the Hopkins community. So we're going to start with sort of the basics of where we are. We are located in Baltimore, Maryland, right where that star is on the map. So we are in the city of Baltimore. We're in the northern part of the city on the Homewood campus. That's where our Whiting School of Engineering and the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences are located. We do have a wide variety of schools that are part of the Hopkins network, which are primarily graduate institutions from the Bloomberg School of Public Health, our School of Education, the School of Medicine, the School of Advanced International Studies. But as undergraduates on the Homewood campus, you are able to connect with that larger Hopkins network, which we'll also talk more about in a moment. But like I said, as undergraduates, you are living and learning on this Homewood campus. We do also have a virtual tour. So if you're looking to see more of what are these buildings or what does that campus look and feel like, our virtual tour is a really great opportunity for you to learn more about that. But you can see it has a very traditional college campus feel to it, although we are in a city. So you still get that sort of best of both worlds of having the access and opportunities of being in a city while still having a very traditional college campus. And so while you are living and learning on the Homewood campus, there are a wide variety of academic opportunities. At Hopkins, we have a very open and flexible curriculum. So that is because Hopkins was founded with the liberal arts as well as research in mind. And so those two philosophies really meld themselves together during your time at Hopkins. We're going to first start by talking about what the liberal arts look like at Hopkins. Liberal arts is simply the academic philosophy that encourages students to study across areas. It's the belief of Hopkins and schools that really emphasize the liberal arts that in order to find the best solutions, the most innovative answers to the questions that you care about, you are going to be able to do that by thinking through those problems and questions from multiple perspectives. So we want our students to take classes across all different disciplines so that you're able to find those answers. Can you think about the problem from a scientific perspective, from a historical perspective, from a community perspective? What are those different areas and how can you utilize and find those different connections across disciplines to answer those questions, to find innovation in your field that you're most excited about? So you will have that very dynamic education, but you're also able to declare your major sort of whenever you're ready. So if you know right away that you're super pumped about one field, you can definitely declare your major during that first year and jump right into those classes. So you have until the end of your first year to declare any majors related to engineering, and until the end of your second year to declare any majors related to the arts and sciences. Axel, do you want to tell us a little bit about sort of how you've utilized the open, flexible curriculum at Hopkins? How did you figure out what you wanted to major in?
Yeah, so as far as this flexible curriculum goes, we kind of have a sort of distribution system as opposed to like a core requirement system. And just to tell you a little bit about how that specifically works before I tell you a little bit about myself, you essentially have 3 different buckets that you look to fill. And each bucket is going to be 9 credits, which is roughly equal to 3 classes. One of those buckets is going to be in the humanities, one of them is going to be in the social sciences, and one of them is going to be in the natural sciences, engineering, and quantitative, which is just math. And then in addition to that, you have a writing requirement. It's going to be 2 writing intensive courses if you're in Whiting School of Engineering, and 4 if you're in the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences. So as an English major, I have handled those writing intensives pretty quickly. I think I've actually fulfilled that requirement a few times at this point. I've also fulfilled that humanities distribution requirement because all of the English courses are in the humanities. As a psychology major, I've also fulfilled all of those social science requirements since all the psych classes are in the social sciences. And a few of my psychology classes have also been cross-listed in the neuroscience department, which means that I have kind of double dipped with those. And so I've also fulfilled 6 out of my 9 natural science credits that I need. So once I finish the requirements that are necessary for my majors, I actually only have 1 class left that I have to worry about to fulfill those distribution requirements. So it's really, really easy to double dip. For example, I've taken a class that was writing intensive and then cross-listed between the humanities and natural sciences. That let me knock out 3 different requirements all in 1 class. and it was a class for my major, so it also counted towards my major requirements. So the curriculum here is really, really flexible and allowing you to kind of take advantage of like this wide variety of options that you have. And so you'll find that a lot of students like me will double major, even if those majors don't have any overlap with each other at all.
Great. Yeah. So like Axel was saying, a lot of great opportunity to have multiple areas of interest at Hopkins. 60% of our students will have a double major or a major and a minor. And there are so many options at Hopkins. We know it can be really helpful for students to be able to try out what those different fields might look like because we offer majors in really diverse subjects like archaeology or material sciences engineering, which are usually classes that most high school students haven't had the opportunity to explore yet. So we want to give you that opportunity to try it out, which our distribution credit system is really great for, because if you just try out that archaeology class, that is always going to be counting towards something, towards that humanities distribution requirement. Even if you decide wasn't the field for you, you don't want to major or minor in that, it's always counting towards some area and really encouraging that exploration across your time at Hopkins. It also leads to a really dynamic classroom environment because everyone's choosing to be in those classes. You're not forced to be in one particular class. You're always deciding that's something I'm interested in. That's something I want to learn more about. And everyone is making that decision, which leads to a really, again, engaged environment where you're collaborating with people across different disciplines within the classroom. And then also sort of a quick note, I mentioned when you would declare majors, but oftentimes people wonder in the application, must you list what major you are interested in? So we do ask on the application for your first and second choice major. But for the most part, you're not applying into that major. And I say for the most part because there is one exception to this. That is the biomedical engineering major. That's the only major you need to apply directly into. And you do so simply by just listing it as your first choice major. All of our other majors, though, you will declare those once you arrive on campus. All right, so that sort of covers sort of what the liberal arts looks like at Hopkins, that very dynamic curriculum where you're being or you're exploring across different areas in those really engaged classroom environments. But another big part of our academic philosophy is this idea of research, hands-on learning. So research is one way to engage with hands-on learning, but students will also be involved with internships, entrepreneurship, study abroad, all different ways where they're able to go beyond just what the philosophy or the theory of what they're studying and see what does this look like in practice? How can I contribute new knowledge to something I care about? And so that's a really important part of that experience. It's oftentimes integrated into your classroom experience where you'll be doing original research in your classes, where you'll be doing projects where you're partnering with a local business or a local museum to curate an exhibit or to create a business plan as a part of your classroom experience. So it's very common, it's very easy to get involved with research at Hopkins, as well as internships, all those other areas. So I can talk a little bit more about this, but first, Axel, do you want to share what some of those hands-on experiences you've been involved in? I know you've been involved in sort of a wide variety of research opportunities, so.
Yeah, so I've been doing research since the end of my freshman year, and I've been continuing that ever since. And I've worked on 3 different projects, 2 in the psychology department and 1 actually in the English department. So one of the things I want to emphasize is that research, although it might seem like a more kind of STEM thing to do, we have research in all of our departments, and that includes the humanities. So just to talk briefly about that, and feel free to ask me more questions at the end if you want more detail. But I did a bunch of archival work last summer with Bloomberg Distinguished Professor Dr. Lawrence Jackson in the English department. And so I got to dig through archives and learn about Billie Holiday and Frederick Douglass, and actually like read letters that Frederick Douglass wrote and explore the circumstances and context around Billie Holiday's rather traumatizing childhood. And so that was a project that I worked on and actually presented at a few different symposiums. So there's definitely opportunities for research, even if you're interested in the humanities and more of that sciencey side. I have also done research in the psych department, in which I both worked with bats in kind of that more traditional setting. I was an extra set of hands for like a graduate student helping with their project. Now I'm a little bit more of a less traditional laboratory setting where I'm mostly sitting behind a computer screen. But the project that I'm doing is going to be an online experiment, and it's actually completely my own. So we have every end of the spectrum in terms of level of involvement. You could be really just an extra set of hands, or you could be completely doing your own project. And we also have every end of the spectrum in terms of that kind of laboratory setting. We do have wet labs where you're like in that lab coat with like biohazard training and everything, like what I had to go through to work with bats. And then we have the less traditional, like what I do now, where you're mostly designing experiments online and you're never going to meet any of your participants. But you'll find that there's really two things that are essential to getting involved with research here at Hopkins, and that's that you are interested in a topic that a professor is also interested in, and that you have the motivation to learn more about it. The current lab I'm in for psychology, I actually was asked to join the lab. I met with Dr. Chaz Firestone, my PI, and I had some questions about a paper he wrote a few years ago, and I went to his office hours. We ended up talking for like 2 hours, and he asked me to join his lab. He has never seen my GPA, never seen my transcripts, never seen my resume, probably doesn't know that I got a B in his class. And yet he asked me to join his lab because I was interested in the same things that he was interested in. And I showed that motivation that I wanted to investigate that further by doing experiments and working in his lab. And for the vast majority of professors, that's all they care about. It's not so much about what your qualifications are. It's just that you're interested and motivated. So yeah, definitely lots of research opportunities here at Hopkins.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think what Axel was saying really emphasizes the fact that our professors are really open to getting students involved with their work. They are really excited to share what they're excited about, which they are really excited about their research and want you to learn from them, get involved, have your own ideas, expand off of what they're doing. So there's a really wide variety of opportunities. It is easy to find these through just having a meeting with a professor or utilizing some of our resources like the Hopkins Office of Undergraduate Research that helps students to find these different opportunities. I do also want to talk briefly about internships as well. So being in the city of Baltimore means that our students are very easily able to have internship opportunities during the school year as well as during the summer. And so students can connect with a wide variety of opportunities within Baltimore. We'll see students who are doing material science engineering internships with Under Armour. We'll see students who are doing marketing internships with local companies, local restaurant groups, different places like that. We'll see students who are curatorial assistants at the Walters Art Museum or the Baltimore Museum of Art. So there's really a wide variety of ways to explore your interests, whether that's journalism or business or whatever it might be. You're going to be able to find those internship opportunities in Baltimore, as well as have those take you all over the world during the summer as well. But to talk a little bit more about research at Hopkins. So I mentioned, or it was on the slide earlier actually, that Hopkins was founded as the US's first research university. We also, though, are the school that spends the most on research of any school in the United States. This past year, we spent about $2.56 billion on research. So it's really happening in abundance. And you're able to connect to that larger Hopkins network that I mentioned before. So we'll see students who are doing research on the Homewood campus, like Axel had described, but we also see students who will take these opportunities and connect with doing research at the School of Medicine, doing research at our School of Advanced International Studies in Washington, D.C. But these connections also go beyond research as well, where we'll see students, our public health studies majors are required to take classes at the Bloomberg School of Public Health during their senior year. So that's a great opportunity to connect. Students can do medical shadowing at the Hopkins Hospital. So lots of great opportunities to have these opportunities across all scales, from your own individual projects where you're the one who are driving those, to your professors on the Homewood campus, to also connecting with these larger graduate institutions as well. So you have the opportunities of being at a large institution like Hopkins, but on the Homewood campus, it is much more that small school support feel where you get a lot of individualized attention and guidance from your various advisors, from our different offices and support systems at Hopkins. Our undergraduate population is about 5,300 undergraduate students. Our student to faculty ratio is 7-1. So it is really easy to know your professors, to just have those meetings where you want to ask them questions about papers they've done or just talk about life. They're very open to getting to know you on a personal level. But you also have a very formalized system of advising here at Hopkins where you'll get an advisor before you even step foot on campus. We'll work with you throughout your time at Hopkins, but especially in those beginning stages when you might not be sure what you want to major in or how to explore the fact that we have over 50 different majors and what should you take classes in, what should you get involved in. They'll be there as that definite initial guide, but you really build a team of advisors around yourself during your time at Hopkins, given the number of advisors that exist here. Axel, do you want to talk a little bit more about how you've connected with professors or different advisors on campus?
Yeah, so as far as advising goes, you are given a general academic advisor when you first get on campus. And they're really there to help you with any general questions and to help get you started on that track towards whatever majors you might be interested in. But then for every major, minor, or pre-professional track that you declare, you get an additional advisor. So as a double major, I have an English advisor, I have a psychology advisor, I have a general academic advisor. Very briefly, I had a film minor in which I had an advisor for that. And then I was also pre-law for a while, had an advisor for that. So there was a point in time where I had 5 different advisors all kind of helping me out and making sure that I'm taking all the right classes and everything. But in addition to this wonderful like kind of team of advisors that you're given, there's all of the sort of informal advisors that you meet along the way. For me, I have my official English and psychology advisors, but I also have the unofficial ones. I have Dr. Chaz Firestone, who I do research with. Whenever I have questions about the major or about what grad school is like, or what is the best way to prepare for grad school, or what kind of jobs I can do with my major, he's usually the first person I go to even before my official advisor. Same thing for English. I have a sort of informal advisor that I go to for questions, and I'm doing my senior thesis with him. So I'll go to him with questions about like, hey, what's the job market like for someone with an English major, and stuff like that. But in addition, sometimes these advisors, I just go and I talk to them. I ask Chaz how his week was, and he tells me, and he asks me how my classes are going, and I tell him about it. So it's really, really easy to engage and sort of form these relationships with your professors and with your advisors here. And you are really given that support automatically from the get-go by the assigned advisors, but there's so many other people that you're going to meet in all different areas and of all different backgrounds who can kind of help you and guide you along the way.
Definitely. So easy to reach out and to find these connections because we are more of that mid-sized campus. It's also a very collaborative campus feel and sort of vibe on campus where students are very much looking out for one another. So you have those sort of informal advisors from different professors or staff you'll meet, but you also have a really strong support system through the student body, your friends, your different communities that you'll have here at Hopkins. So since we are that mid-sized community, students are really connected to everything happening on campus, but also because students are required to live on campus for those first 2 years. After that, housing is no longer required nor guaranteed, so most students are moving off campus. But off campus is usually maybe a couple steps away from where your residence hall was. Students are very connected to that Homewood community in the Charles Village neighborhood in Baltimore. And they'll be very invested in your residence hall community. We have houses within the residence halls that provide even sort of subsections of community. But we also have a wide variety of student organizations on campus. We have over 400 different student organizations, and these really run the full gamut. We have 13 different a cappella groups. We have an investment team that manages $250,000 budget to make real world investments in the stock market. We also have a breakfast cereal club that gets together and eats breakfast cereal. So wide variety of things you can be doing at Johns Hopkins. And all of those student organizations are student run. Students are making those important decisions about what stocks should they be investing in for that investment team? What breakfast cereal should they bring to the meeting? What does that community look like for them? And what do they want to be happening on that day-to-day basis? What speakers should be coming? So students are really driving forward what that campus community feels and looks like. Axel, you're involved in a variety of things. Do you want to share sort of what does community look like for you at Hopkins? How are you involved?
Yeah, so as far as extracurriculars, I am captain of the men's club soccer team. I'm also vice president of the English club. And then, of course, I work with Blue Key to give tours and info sessions like this. And then I also do research. So for me, the thing that I appreciate most about these different clubs and organizations is all the different people that you get to meet outside of your studies and outside of your majors. I'm friends with a bunch of engineers on the soccer team that I never would have met if it hadn't been for us both liking soccer. But in addition to sort of the social aspect of all of these extracurriculars, I think that they sort of provide an opportunity to learn outside of the classroom. So for me, for example, as captain of the men's club soccer team, I have to manage a budget of a few $1,000s to make sure that we can travel to and from all of our games, pay for refs, pay for uniforms. I also have to work with both the league, our athletic director, as well as captains of other men's club soccer teams at other schools in order to like schedule games and field time and practice time. And then I also have to manage like actually coaching the team and recruiting and hosting tryouts. And all of these are things that are just vastly different skills than from what I would learn as just an English and psychology double major. And it really provides an opportunity for me to get those kind of soft skills that I couldn't learn from academics. But I still have that guidance and support even though it's a club. But I really want to emphasize that everything here is completely student run and organized as far as all of the extracurriculars go. It really is the students who decide what happens on campus. And I think because of that, you have a really fun culture that happens here where all of the different events that go on are student organized. And so students really want to attend them and go to them for fun. We have a dozen different a cappella groups and there's always someone performing every Friday night and if not multiple groups. And so it's just a really fun environment because of that.
Absolutely. And I saw in the Q&A, there's a few people asking like, do you have this organization or that organization? In the chat feature, my colleague Maria had dropped some resource links and there's one that goes back to what student groups exist on campus. So it's the Johns Hopkins Campus Labs link. So if you look through those links, you'll see that and that will take you to the place where you can see all the different clubs and organizations and what groups exist there. Being that there's over 400, there is a really wide variety from different specific dance groups to different cultural organizations. So there is a lot represented within those 400 different student organizations. But another really great way that our students get to connect with the campus community is through our different campus traditions that happen every year. So Axel, I don't know if you want to share what's one of your favorite campus traditions?
Yeah, so my top two are Spring Fair and Lighting of the Quads. But Lighting of the Quads is the one that I really look forward to every year. So for a little bit of context, Lighting of the Quads happens right before reading period start, or right before finals start during reading period at the end of the fall semester. So it's December, it's cold, everyone's tired because the semester is almost over and you've been in the library like cramming for your finals. And then we have a bunch of like hot cocoa, coffee, warm cider, different snacks and stuff. A bunch of different student groups perform on the quad, such as the Entertainers Club, which you can see in the picture there, like juggling fire, as well as different a cappella groups and other groups. And then President Daniels goes up and he usually does like a couple trivia questions and then gives a really funny speech. And then he like flips a giant switch and all of the lights all over campus all come on at the same time. And then it's followed by like a 20-minute fireworks show. And for me, this is just one of the most like defining moments of being a Blue Jay at Hopkins. Everyone kind of just feels united. You know, everyone comes out of the library. We've all been studying. We're all tired. We're all cold because it's December, and yet we're standing there like as an entire school watching these fireworks and watching all the lights come on. And for me, that's just a really great tradition that we have where just everyone all comes together and just has fun for a couple hours before finals.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Great different traditions that we have on campus. There's those big ones, smaller ones, but definitely lots of fun things that unite the student body throughout the year. But another really important part of that community that you're a part of and what your life looks like during your time at Hopkins is getting involved with the city of Baltimore, where we're located, and it's a really integral part of the student experience that you'll have at Hopkins. So students will get involved in Baltimore, like I mentioned previously, through internships, but also students will get involved through different interests they have. There'll be students who join the Baltimore City Ballet Company. There's students who get involved with local entrepreneurship ventures happening in the city, getting involved with political campaigns that they care about. So Baltimore offers a lot for our students, really invest in their home for their 4 years that they'll be at Hopkins. Many students stay after as well, given that they've really come to have it be their home during that time at Hopkins. These are some really nice pictures of just sort of what Baltimore looks like. It is a city of neighborhoods, so there are over 200 distinct neighborhoods within the city of Baltimore. So a lot to explore and see and do. That bottom picture of the harbor is from the Federal Hill neighborhood, Federal Hill Park. The upper picture with the sort of statue in it, that is Penn Station, our big train station, but then also sort of the location of where our Station North Arts District is. And then on the other picture at night is the National Aquarium that's in Baltimore and sort of showing off that harbor area again, and sort of that inner harbor, Harbor East neighborhoods as well. So a lot to explore just within the pictures that we're showing, but even beyond that, there is a lot to do in Baltimore. Definitely 4 years is a good starting point for getting to know the city, but lots to see and do. It is a mid-sized city, so it's quite easy to navigate and get around. There's a variety of free public transit systems within the city, like the Baltimore College Town Network shuttle, which connects Hopkins and the other colleges within the Baltimore College Town Network. There are 13 colleges in the Baltimore area that connects to, as well as it can take students to Target and other popular destinations like that. We have the Charm City Circulator, which is the Baltimore Free City bus that has a stop on campus and goes down into a bunch of different neighborhoods as well. And then we also have the Johns Hopkins shuttle that takes you to our different campuses. So some of our different campuses are located in different parts of the city. So the medical campus, that includes the medical school, our School of Nursing, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, and some other parts of the medical institution. That's more in the eastern part of Baltimore near Fells Point. And so students can take the bus over there if they're taking classes, doing research, but also if they want to get to a different part of the city. Same for the Carey School of Business. That's more in the Harbor East area, and there are shuttles that will go there. So easy to explore the city using those, as well as take advantage of those resources within the Hopkins network. Axel, do you have a favorite neighborhood within the city of Baltimore that you enjoy exploring?
Yeah, I have probably two that I really like. The first one is a pretty popular student destination at Hopkins, which is the neighborhood of Hamden, which is just a short 5-minute walk west of campus. And it's a really just eclectic little neighborhood. They have they have a thing called Miracle on 34th Street that happens around Christmas time, which is really cool. They have a bunch of good restaurants and little antique shops, and it's all within like the college budget. So it's really popular to go and grab some ice cream from the Charmery there. because it's just so close to campus. Probably my other favorite place though is going to be Little Italy, which is closer to Inner Harbor. And that's really just purely for the food. It's just, you can just get really good, authentic, like Italian food and desserts and pastries and stuff there. And that's probably one of my favorite places to go off campus.
Awesome. Yeah, so exploring with your stomach, great option to see a lot of what Baltimore has to offer by just figuring out what food you want to try, and it'll take you to a bunch of different neighborhoods. So now that we've told you a lot about what is life like while you're a student at Hopkins, sort of a natural follow-up to that question is, where does the Hopkins experience take our students? And one of our main resources on campus that will help you figure out what those next steps might look like for you is our Life Design Lab. This is sort of our version of the Career Center. Students can work with the Life Design Lab throughout all 4 years that they're at Hopkins. And this resource will provide sort of those traditional pieces that you expect from a career center, helping students with resumes and mock interviews. We have Hopkins Handshake, which is a sort of database of all the different opportunities, internships, full-time job opportunities that have been posted specifically for Hopkins students. There's usually somewhere between like 7,000 and 10,000 opportunities depending. And again, we have about 5,300 undergraduates, so lots of things to explore there. But we also have our life design educators. So these are advisors that will work directly with our students to help them figure out what their next steps for. The reason we call our Career Center the Life Design Lab is because it's a very specific philosophy, wanting our students to think holistically about where they want to their career to take them. What sort of impact do they want to have on the world around them? And that philosophy of life design looks intentionally at how students are finding mentors and how they're sort of finding moments of inspiration that can help them seize those opportunities that will take them there. So students are not sort of coached just to find that one job as soon as they graduate. They'll obviously have lots of support in finding their first job, but thinking really long-term and holistically about their career so that they can really have that long-term success that they're looking for coming to a place like Hopkins. And so those advisors, they're integrated throughout our different academic departments. The idea sort of being that you don't need to go to the Life Design Lab. The Life Design Lab will come to you and be there to offer their support and advice throughout your time at Hopkins. And so some more information about where do students end up. So this is some data from our class of 2018 that showcases their first destinations post-graduation. And something I'll note is about 35% of our students are going straight into graduate school. So this is a sort of very solid proportion of students going into graduate school. And I think there's a couple of reasons for this. Is one, that we definitely foster a love of research and hands-on learning, that students may want to continue those projects and questions that they've started at Hopkins at the graduate level for masters or PhDs or whatever their interest might be. We also do have a variety of accelerated 5-year bachelor's, master's programs as well. So this is where students can apply for these during their senior year typically, and then take on a 5th year to complete their master's degree. So these are in about 20 different subjects or fields. This includes all of our engineering master's programs, as well as a variety within the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences that range from political science to neuroscience to history. So students are able to pursue those as sort of an accelerated pathway. There's also the opportunity to get half off tuition through the Dean's Graduate Fellowship that is just for our Hopkins undergraduate students. So really great opportunities there, and we'll see students go into a wide variety of graduate fields. But the majority of our students are going directly into the workforce in a wide variety of fields. Since you have that really strong liberal arts education at Hopkins, students aren't bound by just one career option or one pathway. Our students are really able to take all the different skills that they've gained at Hopkins and go into so many different fields. One of those areas that we see a lot of students going into might be sort of consulting, business, finance. And I think that's important to note because we don't have a major in those fields. We do offer a variety of business minors, but students are able to utilize the skill sets that they have at Hopkins to take them into so many different directions. Although I will note the largest percentage of where that field of employment is 39% of students going into this other category. And this is really across all areas of what could be an other, so many different pieces there. And that's because our students are really diverse in their interests. Even students who have the same major have that flexibility to study within the major, all different areas, and to sort of curate their academic pathway at Hopkins. You're really empowered to find your own interests, and that takes our students in a lot of different directions. All right, and then what are we looking for in the application? So in this section, we'll talk about the admissions and the financial aid process at Hopkins. So we'll first start with some basic logistics of the process. So at Hopkins, we have two different application periods for first year admissions. That first one is early decision. This is, as the name notes, an earlier deadline of November 1st. But importantly, it is also a binding decision plan. This means if you apply through early decision, you're only allowed to apply to one school that has a binding decision plan. And if admitted to that school, you are committed to attend that university. So it's really designed for students who know where their top choice school is. If that's you, you can apply through early decision by that November 1st deadline. So you also want to make sure that you're fully prepared to apply by that deadline. If you feel your application will be stronger, if you have more time to prepare and put it together, you might want to consider that regular decision that we'll talk about in a moment. But if you're ready, know that Hopkins is that first choice school for you, then you'll apply through early decision. That deadline, November 1st, you'll find out in mid-December if you've been admitted, and have until, and then if admitted, you'll be committed to attend in the fall. For a regular decision, if you're not quite sure where your top choice is or feel you'll be better prepared to apply by the later deadline, that deadline is January 2nd. Students will find out in mid-March if they've been admitted and have until May 1st to let us know if they'll be attending. We do also have a transfer admissions process with a deadline of March 1st. If you have specific questions about transfer admissions, we can handle those towards the end. For the first year admissions process, we do also accept the coalition and the common application for both of those. Now for financial aid. At Hopkins, we are very much committed to making sure that Hopkins is an affordable option for all of our students. And so given that we are committed to meeting 100% of demonstrated financial need for our students. And so when you're applying for financial aid, we'll ask you to submit a variety of documents. The FAFSA, if you are a U.S. citizen, the CSS profile, and your tax returns. This gives our financial aid office some background on your family's financial situation. So they'll use those documents to see what could your family reasonably contribute to your college education. And then whatever that is, we will meet the rest of the cost of attendance. And the cost of attendance is taking into account tuition, room and board, but also other expenses like travel to and from campus, your books, different pieces like that of what it means to be a student at Hopkins and thinking comprehensively about that. We're also a part of that commitment of meeting 100% of demonstrated financial need. We also are committed to having no loans as a part of our financial aid packages. So we meet that 100% of financial need through a mixture of grants and scholarships, and as well as work study. So there is no loans that are a part of that. You can see what your financial aid package might look like right now by using tools like our My Intuition Quick Cost Estimator, as well as the Net Price Calculator. So these are both resources that you can find on our financial aid website to see what your financial aid package could look like. Our financial aid office is a really fantastic resource, so you can feel empowered to reach out to them with questions you might have. If you use one of those calculators and something seems off and you want to run it by them, you have questions about what financial aid terms mean, our financial aid office is really happy to be a proactive resource for you. You don't need to wait until you've been admitted or are committed to attend Hopkins. You can start that conversation with them right now as soon as those questions start coming up. As for our admissions process, so we'll now spend a little bit of time about what do we look for in our application process and how do we find that in the different application components you'll submit to us. At Hopkins, we practice a holistic admissions review, which means that we're looking at all the parts of your college application to make our admissions decision. It means we're also going to be taking individual context and into account while reading your application. We know every school is different in the classes they offer. Every student has access to different opportunities. So we read your application within your own individual context, and we use the different parts of the application to better understand you and how you've maximized those different opportunities that you've had. So while we're reading your application, we're focusing on three broader categories: your academic character, your impact and initiative, and then your overall match with the university. So we'll start with academic character. This is sort of looking at the things you would typically expect admissions officers to care about, such as sort of your academic profile. What sort of classes have you taken throughout your 4 years of high school? How have you challenged yourself with rigorous courses? Rigorous courses, again, can look different in every single environment. So we get to know what's available at your high school and see how have you maximize those different opportunities, as well as how are you doing in those individual courses. We know many students are in remote learning right now, and that may have changed what opportunities are available to you or what grading systems might look like. Within a holistic review, we're able to take this into account and understand what those different circumstances are, and we are very much aware of that in our review. We're also looking at some form of standardized testing. We require either the ACT or the SAT. We do SuperScore, both of those exams, and we do not require the writing section for either of those exams. We do not require any other form of standardized testing. So for instance, SAT subject tests, AP testing, English language proficiency exams, none of those are required for our admissions process. So you don't need to worry about those for the Hopkins admissions process. We also want to get more information about who you are as a student more qualitatively. So we ask for a variety of letters of recommendation to learn more about you in that way. So we ask for 2 letters of recommendation from academic teachers. For these, we're wanting to better understand who are you within the classroom. This is sort of the on-the-ground view of who are you as a student. What type of questions are you asking? What are you most interested in? What's your work style? How are you collaborating with your peers? How are you working with your teacher? So we can better think about who will you be as a student within the Hopkins classroom and how will you mesh with our academic environment, with our professors. And so we also ask, though, for more of an overview, sort of from that bird's eye view, from 1 letter of recommendation from your school counselor. Your school counselor, like I said, provides that more sort of overview throughout your 4 years, helping us understand parts of your school context as well as any individual context of your situation. So counselors can sometimes help us understand if students had a concussion one year and had to miss a lot of classes or had personal circumstances that affected them. You can also feel empowered to share that type of information in other parts of the application and in your own words. So there's the additional information section of the application where you're able to share anything like that, any context or things that you feel your application would be incomplete without an admissions officer knowing in that additional information section. Letters of recommendation, though, also help us understand who are you as a community member. So this brings us to this idea of impact and initiative. We're looking for students who are positively impacting their communities, who are taking initiative to better their communities in different ways. So we'll look at your activities list for different extracurricular involvements, but also how are you engaged in clubs, activities, sports, volunteer work? How are you involved with family responsibilities? Are you helping out with grandparents or younger siblings or whatever that might be? Religious or cultural commitments, how are you engaging with those on a day-to-day or annual basis? What does that look like in your life? So we are wanting to get that full picture of who are you and how are you engaged in your community. a way that a lot of students are able to sort of flesh out their personal qualities, what's important to them, what they value, is through that personal statement essay. This is the essay that's sent to every college and university that you're applying to. So although it's not specific to us, it is very specific to you and your sort of personal qualities and your communities that you're a part of. And so you can see sort of samples of what this might look like on our website called Essays That Work. So these are full-length admissions essays that students who have applied and were admitted and came to Johns Hopkins wrote. So you can read through those essays. And also, though, maybe more importantly, you can read the comments that we as admissions officers wrote about what was so great about those essays. And finally, I've sort of been discussing this a little bit throughout. We're looking at this idea of match with the university. So we want students to be a really strong match for Hopkins. And so we think about who would you be in our community, within our classroom? How is your approach to community and collaboration going to be similar to our approach on campus? So we get this throughout the entire application, but one of the ways we most directly get this is through our supplemental essay. We ask you to tell us about a time when you collaborated with others and what you learned from that experience. And so for this, my advice is to sort of think critically about what experience you want to talk about. Not everything you've ever done with other people is inherently collaborative. So think about what is an experience that really allows you to discuss collaboration, as well as including those reflections, helping us understand what you learned about yourself, what you learned about others, what you learned about collaboration will help us better understand who might you be as a future community member at Hopkins. So that's an overview of all the different pieces we look for in the college application. There's a variety of ways to continue connecting with us that are on the screen. We're going to now get into the Q&A portion. So I know there's quite a few questions there. If we're not able to get to your question today, definitely reach out to the go-to-jhu@jhu.edu or our Ask a Student email address as well if your question is more for a student. But we'll see what questions are in our Q&A. So just quickly, the first question I'm seeing is, do we offer merit aid at Hopkins? So I didn't cover that in the financial aid section. So we do not, or sorry, we do offer merit aid, but you do not need to apply for it. All students are automatically considered for merit scholarships. Next, I'm seeing a question about sort of how you would describe the environment, competitive or collaborative or some other words. So Axel, I've sort of talked a little bit about this of how we look for collaboration in the admissions process, but do you want to expand on sort of how do you find the environment at Hopkins?
Yeah, so I definitely find the environment to be collaborative, and I think that most students that you ask will agree. I remember my freshman year, I lived in a residence hall, and most of the people in my wing of the building were engineers. And I was the only English person and I think the only humanities person like on the hall. And I was taking Calculus 1 that year. So I had a lot of trouble with the math. And so I would go to my engineering friends down the hall and they would help me with my calculus homework and help me to study for my tests. And in return, when they had an essay that they needed someone to like look over, I would help them with their essays. And you'll find that stuff like this is pretty common. It's not really going to be competitive in that kind of sense. At the end of the day, I have my own goals and they have their own goals, and it doesn't really matter if someone is doing better than someone else, just that they're kind of reaching their own goals. So everyone's really trying to help everyone else succeed. And you'll see that across all different majors and disciplines.
Awesome. There's a few admissions questions that I'll tackle right now. First question is, do we offer interviews? We do not have interviews that are part of our admissions process. So if there's anything additional you want to share in your application that doesn't fit in other parts, that's where I'd encourage you to use the additional information section. There's also some questions about, do we track demonstrated interest for our admissions process? So we do not track demonstrated interest. We're really happy that you came today. We think hopefully engaging with us can help you understand if Hopkins is a great fit for you, but it's not something that we're going to take into account. Have you attended an event in our admissions review? Only the things that I talked about in that section of what are we looking for, those different parts of your application that you're submitting. And then there's also a question about sort of the test cancellations given COVID-19. So we're definitely continuing to monitor that situation, knowing that there are a lot of cancellations, and at this point, no one can really predict what the future is going to look like and what things might be. So we're continuing to monitor that. Right now, we do still require the ACT or SAT. If there's any updates, as we continue to monitor that and get more information about what future opportunities are going to be, we'll definitely be in touch with all of the students who would be applying next year. So if you haven't signed up for your mailing list, I would encourage you to do that, as that's where we'll be communicating with students about those types of updates. And then we have another question about sort of what is diversity like on campus? So we definitely have a lot of different sort of types of diversity really represented. I think that's something when we are thinking about admissions, we're thinking about building a community of students to come to Hopkins, where we're thinking about, as Axel was talking about, in the residence hall, people are going to have all different interests, all different backgrounds to come together to be at a place like Hopkins, where students are learning from one another, having that really dynamic community. So something that we're definitely intentional for our community. But Axel, do you want to talk a little bit about what diversity looks like for you as a student on the campus?
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in a rural area in Virginia that was not that diverse. So diversity was something that was really important to me when I was looking to choose a college. And I think that Hopkins really delivers in that regard. Um, when I came to campus as a freshman, I found people from all different places geographically, literally all over the world. My suite that I lived in my freshman year, my roommate was half Peruvian and he was from California. And then my other two suite mates were international students from China. So we have people literally from all over the world, also of all different majors and interests and research interests, with people of all different races and ethnicities and religions, sexual orientations. We also have socioeconomic diversity. I Hopkins is diverse in every possible sense you could apply the word. And for me, that's something that's definitely really important and something that I definitely see on a daily basis as a student.
Awesome. Yeah, and we have a lot of resources. Some of those offices we mentioned before sort of just talked more vaguely. They had a lot of listings on the screen. You'll definitely find sort of different cultural groups, different support for religious diversity through our Center for Religious and Spiritual Life, our Office of Multicultural Affairs, looking at racial and ethnic diversity. We have our FLY network for first generation limited income students. We have our Office of Gender and Sexuality on campus. So you'll find a lot of specific supports for all different identities. And then we have a question about sort of how do you find balance? And then also there's a question about sort of adjusting to Baltimore. So I don't know if there's a way for you, Axel, sort of combine those into one, sort of all to this new lifestyle, and how was
College. So in high school, you're in class for like 7 hours a day, whereas once you get to college, you're in class maybe like 2 hours a day, if that, depending, 7 hours total. And the rest of that time is doing homework or doing research or working. So you have a lot more just time to like fill your day with. And you kind of, because of that, have to be a lot more responsible and like set your schedule and set aside time for doing homework and for studying and knowing exactly how long that'll take you. As far as adjusting to Baltimore specifically, I grew up in a really rural area. I was not used to the city life at all. I think there's also a question about safety, so I can tackle that too. And for me, I didn't know anything about living in a city. I didn't know how to use public transportation. I didn't know like just anything at all. And so one of the things that we do during orientation is a mandatory like safety walk. And you kind of get to walk around and explore like Charles Village and some of the areas right around campus. But you also get adjusted to that city lifestyle if, like me, you didn't know anything about it. And really what I have kind of learned as far as like navigating a city is it just takes common sense and maybe a little bit of an adjustment just to have everything like so close and convenient and being able to use public transportation and stuff like that. But the adjustment's pretty easy. Hopkins has lots of resources to help you if you feel unprepared. And then you also have lots of friends that you make. All of my friends were from big cities, so they knew how to use public transportation and they had the common sense to be like, Axel, don't go play Pokemon Go at midnight, like in an alley somewhere. It's a bad idea. You could have done that back home. Can't do that here. So just having like some common sense stuff that like I didn't really get before.
Awesome. So we are unfortunately out of time. I know there's some other really great questions in here. We do want to answer those for you. So I really encourage you to please reach out to those email addresses on the bottom of the screen. Go to jhu@jhu.edu, ask a student at jhu.edu. So I know there are some questions that were specifically talking to the student experience or why do students choose to attend Hopkins? That'd be a great question to send to that Ask a Student email account for the more like admissions policy questions and things like that. Please send those to the Go to JHU and our admissions team will be sure to get back to you. So thank you all so much for coming. We really enjoyed getting to talk with you today. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And please, again, reach out with further questions. All
If you
right.
have any questions specifically for me, feel free to just name drop me and then ask a student, just say this is for Axel, and they'll get that to me and I can respond to you guys.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Axel. Again, everyone have a great day. I'll end our meeting now.